Everybody to the second in our series of DEIB salons. Are you picking me? Yeah, you are picking me up. I'm on, yes. We are, the first salon we had a fantastic discussion at BAM on the concept of disabilities, seen and unseen, and what we can do to make our game more accessible. Today's discussion is to talk about our communities, because we have various marginalized communities within our society. And they're not just, everybody starts to think gender-based communities, but we have things other than gender-based communities in our society. We have religious-based communities in our society. We've already seen that. We've seen a little bit of conflict on some of our Facebook pages. Conflict. So we have these communities in our society. We have gender-based marginalized communities in our society. We have racially based marginalized communities in our society. And the question is, how do we take all of these beautiful, diverse communities and have them interact with one another in a manner that contributes to making our dream a better place? And so that's the question that we have today. Castellana, I'm going to bring you in to talk a little bit about what our society looks like with respect to makeup and what we see in our marginalized communities.
I'm just going to kneel in front of you.
No problem.
I don't know that I have too much to add to what Her Majesty said, other than the concept of how do we make our events, not just how to bring more people together to benefit the society, but how do we make our events and traveling to events safer for these marginalized communities? Because a lot of times the question is about safety, whether that is at the event itself or whether that's traveling to the event, getting ready for events. And so how can we address this issue of safety and develop strategies to make our events and make traveling to our events more safe, safer for our marginalized communities?
Thank you. And so one of the first things that we can talk about is the concept of safety in numbers. If you are with somebody who is in a marginalized community that expresses that they don't feel safe, how can we go about providing a safe way for them to go back and forth to our communities? And one of that is to combine resources, ride together, share resources. That way that person feels safe. But one of the other problems that we encounter is these individuals won't always ask for help because they're afraid to ask for help. And that is definitely because there's not that openness that I feel comfortable going to, say, Isabella and say, I'm sorry, Emma, going to Emma and saying, Emma, I don't feel safe. Can you help me get to an event? So how do we make this as something that is known that we will help you if you have that problem? And that is going to come down to our local groups. One of the things that we need to be doing inside of our local groups is letting people know, hey, if you have an issue going to an event because, say, you don't feel safe traveling alone, or you don't feel safe because you're traveling through an area that maybe may be known to have issues. And I'm going to bring up an issue. I'm going to name one off the top of my head. Everybody knows about Vidor, Texas. Okay, we have people that have said in the past they are not comfortable traveling up into that area because of the history of that town. All right, so what do we do to combat that? And what we do to combat that is, first of all, on our local levels, on our baronial levels, on our shire levels, on our canton levels, we let it be known that our meetings are a safe space for all communities. That's the start. Your Excellency.
I would actually, you've posed now an expectation, a thought to improve. But I would like to hear from the audience about how their groups are maybe bringing this, making good that safe area, that inclusive area.
That's a great comment. So, Your Excellency Marie.
So for our group, one of the things that we do is we post every month the progress of the events that we are planning on traveling. And we let people know that we have a large vehicle if they would like to ride for whatever reason, that we have space. We also offer caravanning in addition to the carpooling, so that everybody knows where and what our accommodations are, so that they don't have to come to us and ask. We can say, hey, this is offered. If you would like to take us up on it, just let us know. And we would love to have you. If there's anything that we can do to help you get there, whether sometimes that's a cost for a site fee where they don't have that, sometimes we can even sponsor that. So we're doing our best to try and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to come to events if they want to.
Are any other groups tackling this issue? Yes.
Hi, I'm Tegan from Publisher Group I know, also your then being DEI officer. One of the things that my local group does, as a caveat off of what you included, Your Excellency, is we do ride sharing, but also after events, we like to go out and eat together. If we need to go someplace, we always have someone to go with us. In fact, our seneschal says, bring a change of mundane clothes in a plastic bag, not just for weather, but if you have to go off site, you are not dressed in a way that makes you a target when you step off the site.
That's a great idea. It really is. And so that's kind of to help you blend into the local community. You know, sometimes we like to go out to areas to eat that are in our garb because we like to attract attention to the SCA. But if you have somebody who is not feeling comfortable in that, many years ago, we used to call that concept freaking the mundanes. I mean, some of you, yes. But we have people who are not comfortable doing that. So let it be known that they are welcome. Bring mundane clothes. You don't always have to be in your garb when you're with SCA people. That's a really great point, Tegan. Yes, Macaulay.
I think the through line of what seems to be being said here is that we really need to focus on offering the help from our group expressly and not we need to be concerned with always putting it out there. It's so much better, in my personal opinion, to put the net out there of offering help 100 times and it being taken once than to demand that one time ask for it. And so the focus, like I said, seems to be, and the opinions already expressed, but it's something to think about consciously, to always express the help from the perspective of those of us that are already going, that can provide the help, rather than putting it on someone else to ask for it. And the same thing goes with what Tegan said in the community building, is that community building, yes, it does build the camaraderie and it does the thing, but it inherently builds a safe space.
Yes.
By building that community, it creates the safe space for the people. Building the infrastructure of our group and the solidity in our community means they have a safe space by the nature of what the community is. And so having a focus on doing that, and doing very much like what Tegan said, focusing on things that aren't just, hey, are you going to be at this event? But what can we do together? Reminding ourselves, like, we are friends, not just when we're in funny clothes. Like,
100%. 100%.
And by building those friendships, we create those safe spaces, and doing it consciously.
Yes.
I think it really needs to be the effort.
Yes.
So I just wanted to kind of put it out there.
Oh, that's great. Brendan?
I just wanted to build upon something that's been mentioned before, and it's something that we used to do a long time ago, but maybe you have a mustering point for your different events where groups will name out, here's our mustering points along the way that we will be stopping and waiting for people, maybe just a common area.
That's a really good idea. So that way, especially when we're at larger events, say Gulf Wars, you can put it out there to say, hey, we're all going to get together and we're going to go to Merchants Row. You are welcome to join us as a collective group. We're going to go do a little bit of shopping. If you've never done this before, please come with us. That's a fantastic idea. Yes.
On the route to the event.
Oh,
But she's expanding on
okay. Oh, that's great. No, I never thought about even on the route to the event. So, like, everybody get together, car, and head to an event together.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Just kind of following on what Macaulay was talking about. I'm of the opinion that we need local groups and we need event stewards to be very cognizant about where you are hosting events.
Yes.
This event is, right now, we are less than 20 miles away from the site of the Greenwood Massacre. And how many Black Scadians? We all know several Black Scadians. My apprentice brother is a Black Scadian. We have several peers who are Black Scadians, and there are none in this room. And I think that's it. I've been at events where I've texted my friends and been like, are you coming? And they're like, actually, no, that's 5 miles away from a sundown town. I'm not coming to that event because I do not feel safe. And doing the research, making sure that you are in safe communities, that you are in areas that are going to be comfortable, that are not going to be traumatic, those are very important things to do. And speaking as a Native person, that's not something that I see a lot of white people doing, is thinking about those things, because you don't have to think about if you're safe going to the grocery store. You don't have to think about if you're in a sundown town. I mean, that is something. I grew up very close to a sundown town. There's a town that if we have to go to a mall, my family does not stop at, because if we run out of gas there, we're screwed, because it's a sundown town. And thinking about those things, doing that research is really helpful and is a way to get around, the easiest way to make things safe is to not create a situation where people could be unsafe to begin with.
That is an amazing point, and that is something that I honestly have never thought about it. And you're right, because I don't have to think about it, and it's one of those moments where you get a little bit of chill because you think about you have privilege. This is what to me, because I don't have to think about us in downtown. But I think that is something that we are working on an autocrat's handbook, and I think that is something that can go into site selection considerations, because in our last DEIB salon, we considered accessibility and what really is accessibility. Is it, I can go this far into the event, but everything's happening over there. But this is another good idea for site selection. Do a little bit of research about what the historical area is, and it's sad to acknowledge, but we still have enclaves in the United States that treat people this way. Mm-hmm. We can talk about our modern world being as fantastic and inclusive as it is, but we're still not there. And it's something that I honestly never thought about. And thank you for bringing that up. I think that was a very important point. Yes, and then we'll come back.
The smallest of additives. In reference to the landing points that were mentioned before, one of the things that comes to mind for me is letting it be known, like many of us travel and hit like a hotel room before going to an event, letting that be known. Just places like, if you're going to travel to an event and you know that a hotel is going to be full of Scadians in this community that we've built and established, it can feel like a safer choice. And so being more public with those decisions can mean having safe spaces more people are willing to embrace.
It's probably public with their hotel room.
Yeah, that's different. That's different. But even in our relatively confined Facebook communities, we don't often post things like that.
Correct.
That information gets out through group chats and, hey buddy, where are you going to be? And knowing where I can go to know where my community is safely isn't always available to everyone. And being a bit more public with it could make a big difference there. And I think to sort of add just again the tiniest bit to what Malcolm said, I think that one of the biggest things that we can do to be conscious of these things, of where is safe to travel to, like I said, is really focusing on leaning into the community we are already building.
100%.
And that we're going to be traveling in an area, I'm always happy to offer someone a ride, but especially if they have their own concerns. If it is, I don't feel safe driving alone, just let us know. But that can be from, hey, does anyone need help? And vocalizing from the perspective of those who can offer and not for those who need it.
100%. Elspeth, I know you had some comments.
Well,
You got them.
found on all of these great discussions is immediately after this, I'm holding a panel on DEIB accessibility and event stewarding. So a lot of these will also, if you know friends who want to come and learn more about that, we will be doing that as well. And that's something I've been trying to do all over, because these points are so amazing and they need to be spoken over and over and over. And so I don't teach a class, I have a panel kind of like you're doing, and I invite people who event steward or are part of the DEIB who've been event stewards or marginalized communities, and they come and speak on their concerns, how we fix it. And so it's more of a discussion. So
yes.
And then I see.
Yeah, but Miss Regina.
One of the things we keep saying is having a way for people to contact us, like I'm taking notes for this for Her Majesty, and I keep coming up with that. But I hear no centralized or this is how we communicate or this is the, to the group to how we will be doing things like that. So I'm interested in groups. How are y'all centralizing or creating a network of communication or things like that?
Okay, let's get to Regina.
I'm not sure. I didn't hear a word she said because I'm deaf. But I of the including everyone, like she was saying, oh, everybody come along, we're going to go out to eat. Well, sometimes that doesn't work. We had a friend a long time ago, and he's still this way. If you say, okay, everybody, we're going, if you didn't say, you need to go with me
They won't
or
come.
want to go, he assumes, and I have another friend in Ansteorra the same way, she assumes that she's not included in that. So you have to point at some, and you just have to know your audience. Sometimes
That's a
it
good
includes
point.
everybody, and other times, it's like when you're asking to volunteers. Don't just say to the whole group, I need volunteers. Walk up to people and say, will you volunteer? Will you volunteer? That's how you get them. Thank you.
Yes.
When I do an event, I actually have a DEIB coordinator in my events. That job it is to make sure that in the ad is information based on accessibility and safety, and that when we put it, like when I did coronation, I posted area safe, for our
Yep.
marginalized communities, and that, if anybody needed a ride or needed anything. So having that coordinator as part of your things and making sure that they actually follow through and post on it, and having a forum where people can respond. And we were available for private messaging as well for any of those who didn't. But it is really hard to reach everybody because some people won't know that you're actually talking to them. Hey, you.
So my question is not at an event, are you having an event coordinator? I'm talking about the group dynamic, because it all starts in your group, in your community, and you keep saying in your community, but I haven't heard the roundabout of how we do that. And I know this lady has her hand up, so I'll just throw that back out to you for maybe a community.
I'll come right back. Understood.
That's okay.
Oh, no, you're good.
Who do we have?
Sorry, I didn't make it.
Nope, you're fine. My job.
One thing I wanted to point out, actually Malcolm took me to task on this one time. The definitions of any limitation, whether it's a sundown town or communication or trauma response, has to be set by the person, for lack of returns, has to be set by the victim of the circumstance. If we're looking for what sites are inaccessible to minorities, in order to establish that and whether we've addressed it, that has to be answered by the minority. A bunch of white people sitting at a table can't say this is a safe town.
100%.
Yeah.
And so,
And the flip side of that is for the communication point about having to talk to people, understand your audience, has someone who is slowly coming to terms with his own neurodivergence after 40 years of some really toxic upbringing in some respects. The only answer to that is some very painful education that we all need to invest in.
100%. So I want to bounce off of that, and I want to go to Tegan for just a second, because Tegan, would you please, would you please, could you send a survey out to Ventame? And I would like to know, and tell them that their responses will be kept confidential, no names, no anything of that nature, but I would like to know if anybody avoided this event because of its location.
Will do.
I would very much like to know that. I would also,
I came up to this.
What-
But people in the Central and the South look at every event
that
and we try to define.
that is true. And actually, I was going to Castellana for the next one, because I want to dig into the Ventame DEI. I also would like for you to start looking at compiling, because here's the thing, I don't know the history of this area. But when you brought up the particular incident, it jogged a memory of what had happened. So would you start compiling a list of areas where these types of events have publicly happened? We know this happened, because that's the first place to start, is trying to kind of figure out some things we might need to avoid. And Castellana, I would like for you to do the same survey for Ansteorra.
I will split it between my deputies, so Elsbeth can catch the central region.
Perfect.
And then I will reach out to my southern DEI deputy.
Perfect.
As well. That way we have people being able to collect that data from each region.
I would very much like to see some of the data on this. First of all, I'd like to know, let's start with a very specific question. Did anybody specifically avoid this event? Then I would like to know, in the past years, have you avoided events because of where they were located, and either something publicly negative has happened or impacted a marginalized community in that area, or you flat out felt unsafe going to that event because of the location? And I'd like to get some data points back on that concept so we can start helping with better selection of sites. Yes, Your Excellency. And who did I? Wait, oh, I'm so sorry. I need a hand. Where is that? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Christiana, what I have been trying to and waiting to answer about is that this is why a lot of groups have been building various platforms on various social media sites,
Okay.
because different generations use different social media
Yes.
and communicate in different ways. So a lot of younger people, whenever they're trying to find where is information for events, all this sort of thing, for the longest time, it was not on Discord. The big push to get the SCA on Discord, which a lot of young people use, started about early 2019 when I started the largest SCA Discord. That was started very recently. And now we started getting official Discords like even later than that. When yeah. And so like we need to start spreading information, not just on Facebook. We need to
100%.
start building these communities on other platforms that really make it easier for people who don't really use Facebook, don't use certain different social medias, so that way they can still have the online community that we like kind of have built over the years after COVID, and make it accessible to everyone.
So she actually was.
Kofina's been.
She was half, no.
Kofina's had her hand up.
I can do both at the same time.
Okay, perfect. No, go ahead, Your Excellency, and then we'll come to Kofina, and then Brendan will pick up with them.
Okay, so I wanted to preface this by saying I know I came in late, so this may have already been covered, but specifically to the topic of not attending events that are in unsafe areas for minority populations. A lot of you know my husband isn't white. My kids aren't white. So this is a thing that we have to constantly pay attention to. In particular, there was an event that was held in Vidor, Texas.
We were talking about Vidor earlier. Yep.
But I think we also need to recognize that this is something that our minority communities think about every single day for every single event, for every single location that they're going to. So it is not unique to the SCA. It is not unique to the area. And they understand that they live in the South and the risk profile is different. So I would caution you when doing a broad survey that most of the SCA is white or white appearing. They're not visibly going to be impacted by this. So a very small number of responses can have a very outsized impact because of the people who are not here and are already not participating in the SCA because it is not seen as a community where they feel safe,
right?
Because it's full of white people. Just quite frankly, like, you're going to be asking the people who have been successful in navigating those challenges and those systems. You're not going to be reaching the people that I think the intent is to reach, where we could be seeing more recruitment, we could be seeing more engagement, because that's not the makeup of our group.
And I understand that, but my thought process is, if we don't already have certain things in place, how do I bring a newcomer in and tell them I'm not going to take you to a sundown town? If that process isn't already in place, and then that's kind of what my thought process is to fix our group internally. That way, when we do recruit outside, I can tell somebody, hey, I'm not gonna take you to Vidor for an event. And that was a very poor choice of event sites, by the way. Yeah.
The way that we have found success in doing that locally is to be posting photos of our practices, posting photos of our events that highlight the diverse community that already exists, so that
that's
people
awesome.
Look, because they are doing that online recon, exactly like Osa said, and they can look and say, oh, that group looks real queer. I'm going to show up because I feel real safe showing up in this group that looks real queer. Okay.
Yep.
So, and it starts with, maybe there's one person at fighter practice who has, pink hair, or whatever it is. And then in the next time there's 3, and the next time there's 8, and it grows over time. But tracking that pattern and consistently posting current, accurate photos of the makeup of your group helps people feel more comfortable.
That's amazing. Well done. Kofina?
I'm speaking from behind the camera. My thought from way back earlier, we were talking about how do you, it's kind of the brief comment about making somebody feel like they're invited to an activity. The comment I want to say is there's a really big difference between telling somebody, you can come if you can, versus saying, I want you to come if you can.
Yes. Yes.
It's especially for folks who are neurodivergent.
Yes.
Just switching that around can make such a difference. But the other comment that I was going to make about kind of bouncing off of different folks use different social platforms, and we want to get information to all the platforms. How can we do this? I am our current Kingdom web minister, and for folks who didn't see it, we taught a communication collaboration class that talked about collaborating across like social media, chronicler, web minister, and then I'm also teaching classes on distributing information centrally from your website to Facebook, email, Discord, and your social platforms, so that you reduce the labor needed to hit all the platforms. And that can, not so much for like, here's my hotel that I'm staying at, but for getting information to your populace, pushing out surveys, things like that. So you're hitting all the platforms and folks can opt into where they want to digest that. Can be really, really powerful.
I agree.
And I'm going to be teaching another class on that soon.
Yay! Over here? Yeah, Brendan is next. Brendan was next. Yep, Brendan was next. And then we'll go back. Yep.
So I wanted to hit on two things. One is my son also uses Instagram. That's a very popular methodology that they use. But I wanted to hit upon your data points. A data point that I think would be important is it's not always obvious when you're talking about a location what is the worry there. It might be helpful if they mentioned what specific event are you referring to, so that we've got something that we can look up and educate ourselves.
Sure. Yeah, on the survey. Yep. Okay. Oh, wait, we have. Okay, when we're coming back, we're coming our way back around. Yep.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback off a little bit of what Her Excellency said. But
excellent.
Like, if we took a DEI survey in here right now, you would like literally only get one Asian voice. So if you do a survey, you're gonna get a bunch of, no offense, white people telling you how we should approach DEI efforts. I think a better approach would be from the top down, to show the leadership. Like, if you look at what DEI is now, I notice every single time there's not a person of color that accepts a DEI office, who's a Kingdom officer or society officer. I noticed. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but you also notice that like there are LGBTQIA officers, people that take those roles. And if you look at what the society has turned into now, there's a lot more of those folks, because they feel welcome. There's representation, and you see people in higher offices that are, the same, similar. I look at higher officers. I don't generally see that. It doesn't make me feel comfortable to go to these places, and I'm a person of color. And I think that, if we want to get people of color to show up to these events, we need to go to where they're at. We need to promote people in positions of leadership, so they can see that, hey, there's someone that looks like me. And
I was gonna say, conversely, you are a visible leader in the community.
Yeah.
Because
So
you are visibly a person of color in a leadership position, our community is more
like, it's great for me to hear someone say, oh, look, there's another Vietnamese person from a newcomer. I feel more comfortable. But I also don't like hearing that, because that means there's only like one of me.
Okay, there's a lady here that had Salon right here. Yes.
Hello, I'm Misty. I'm from Eldron Hills.
Hi, Misty.
So, talking about when Mal was speaking about the sundown towns, I'm 39 years old. I happen to know what a sundown town is, but our newer generations may not. And especially those of us who are white, we have that privilege. We didn't have to learn about that. We didn't have to know what it was or what the dangers were. I knew because I had a family that was on the other side of not protecting people and not trying to keep people safe. So, no, it's not our job as a society, as a group, to teach the younger generations the history of what these terms are, but maybe it could be something that we do, let these younger generations, the groups that are coming up who will be taking our places at events and event stewards and everything and picking places of meeting, let them know what a sundown town is. Let them know where things aren't safe for the LGBT community. Thankfully, a Methodist church, from my understanding, is now fairly safe for the community, but there are churches that aren't. There are churches that, if they knew that there were so many openly queer community people in their facilities, they wouldn't want us here. And just letting the younger generation know that those places exist and those things could happen, I think maybe something as a whole on the SCA we could look at.
Thank you. Okay, we will pass. McCullough?
So a few collective points, and I hope you'll forgive me. I come at this from the angle of a hospitaller. I was a hospitaller. I'm very, very passionate about it. And one of the things that we brought up is this sort of through line of communication that we talk about. We need to talk in our community. We need to have we need to be offering the help with this community. And much like you mentioned, where is our consistent through line? I think that the most obvious place to point would be our social media, specifically Facebook, is the biggest conglomeration of our communication. However, most of our social media, but especially Facebook, is internally designed. It's designed for Scadians to find other Scadians.
Yes.
We search for our local groups by typing in Barony of Wiesenfear. Good luck. If you're finding someone on the sidewalk and trying to show them this cool thing that you do, we are not designed from the outside to find that. It is designed using internal terminology. And so it makes it hard for situations like their excellencies of the steps are mentioning, wherein people are looking at our organization to go, hey, this seems neat. I want to find out more about this. If they don't have, they don't have a business card in hand to look for Barony of Northkeep to find it, they're not going to be able to find it with sword fighting in Tulsa, because we don't organize our groups in that way.
Correct.
It's harder for them to do the research to find out if we're safe. It's harder for them to do the research to find out what we're publishing on social media so that people can reference this. And often that means that they're relying either purely on what they see in a room, which, as we've mentioned, isn't always the most diverse, or what they're seeing or what reputation we have had in the other communities, which, I will be frank, is not always great.
Nope.
As someone who's done crossover into other sword games and things like that, the SCA has this reputation of being all white people, and it does make it difficult for people to discover our game and discover the diversity that we are working to create in the areas we're creating it. A focus, again, not to turn this into a social media rant, but a focus on making our social media accessible such that people can see that we are accepting could make a huge effort in allowing not only our increased community communication to build that, but increased willingness for diverse communities to take a look at us, because they don't even know what efforts we're doing, because everything we do is so internally organized. So just wanted to express that thought.
Yep. And I'm gonna come here. Here?
No.
No, right here. Yep.
I don't think I need a mic.
Well, it goes into it's for the video.
Okay, first off, I'm as old as dirt. Somebody tell me what a sundown community is?
What?
A sundown.
Sundown community.
It is. It's a.
Okay, all right.
So
White race town.
historically, sundown towns would post that people of color, and it varied whether it was Black people, whether it was any people of color, whether it was specific, were not welcome in town and would be arrested
After sundown. Yeah. After dark.
I've actually, okay, so I've been traveled for years, especially being in the military. I have yet to see anything posted like that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it does not exist. I have yet to see that. And from what I hear, and please excuse me for being old and a fart and all that, but I hear a lot of fear instead of education. The key to get rid of what you're running into is education. Educate people. Social media is great. I'm not a social media person. As a matter of fact, you've probably never seen me post. But there are reasons for that because I know things that most of you do not know, and that everything you post is monitored. As far as white versus, and sorry if I say it like this, white versus Black, Filipino, Israeli, Semitic. My wife is Semitic. She's a Jew. And there are right now actively people who are actively against the very what's the term?
Anti-Semitic.
Thank you. Okay. See, I told you I'm old. I'm forgetful. But we fight that right now on a daily basis, and one day it will swing fast and turn into that. Humanity in itself just isn't grown up yet, and it's going to take time. And if we try to force an issue, and when I say force, I mean get into somebody's face and go, well, my whole identity is LGBTQ. I'm not. I have many friends who are, but they don't force me to see it that way. They are who they are. Treat me how you want to be treated, and I will treat you exactly that way. And that's what we have to do. As my wife's grandfather used to say, I'm colorblind. I don't see a person for their color. I see the person for their actions. And if that's what you have to grow up. I understand that. But he had a message to give, and that is stop looking at the skin. What is your ability? What are you able to do? If you look at me, what am I able to do? Well, I used to fight, now I can't. But that's not going to stop me from trying. And people are always encouraging me to get out there and fight, and I appreciate that. So being as an old fart, I don't see a lot of the stuff that that you're saying. I see a lot of people that are, and probably goading some people here. I see a lot of people who are concerned with it, but it needs to be grown in and worked on, like they're talking about. And it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to swallow.
And I'd like to respond to that because I understand what you're saying because you were raised in a generation that did not consider the various diverse communities. You were raised in a generation and you were raised in a white town that where you didn't have to, well, you were raised in an area that you didn't have to worry about sundown. Sundown towns are something that we've experienced all through Texas. Vidor was if you wanted the epitome of a prejudiced city, the poster child, thank you, the poster child for a place that anybody other than white people were welcome was Vidor, Texas. They tried to integrate an apartment complex in Vidor, Texas in the 90s, and they ran those poor people out of town within about a week. It was horrific. It was basically what we lived through in the 50s and 60s with the civil rights movement. The problem is we cannot continue to have attitudes like that inside of our game.
I agree.
And that's what we're trying to kind of address here is those attitudes need to go, and how do we can't change how other people are going to think other than to lead by example. And that I do agree. But we also need to be making conscious efforts to protect our diverse communities through things that we can do, which is create groups so that people know that they have a safe place to be. Look at event sites so we know that when people go into this town that they're not going to feel unsafe going to Walmart after dark because their air mattress popped in their campsite. We need to be communicating that all are welcome by publishing the fact that we are not just a sole white group. We have, and I think their Excellency Steps are doing an amazing job with their groups with showing the welcoming and diversity of our society. And we need to make sure that we're being welcoming to everyone, which is why we wanted to talk about marginalized communities today. It is not necessarily a matter of anyone forcing my views upon you. It is a matter of respecting the fact that there are things in our past that have happened, and there are things that we can do to make our game better for everyone. And as our society changes, so as our mundane society changes, so must our kingdom. We need to reflect the values that are now becoming more and more prevalent in our society. And Hadassah should not feel unwelcome anywhere that she is because she's a Jew. But I also know that she's had issues. Vice versa, I know that some of our Islamic community has had issues as well. These are the things that we want to try to combat in our society and in our dream. And what it means is political posting needs to stay off of Facebook. And I know it's hard. Political posting needs to stay off your society Facebook. It's just that simple. If you have a separate Facebook that's your mundane, do what you will. But if you are fronting where somebody's going to search and they're going to see that you're part of the SCA, do you really want them to know that Islamic people aren't welcome, or Jews aren't welcome, or LGBTQ isn't welcome because you posted something that you believed in politically? No, you don't. What we want to do is grow this dream and make it a welcoming place and a safe space for everyone. And there are a couple ways to do that. We've heard some great ideas so far in the salon. I would like to kind of shift the conversation, because what we've been talking about are event sites and in our groups, but what about at our events? How do we make a safe space in our events? And one of the things that I'd like to kind of toss, because as you guys know, I've started asking for quiet spaces at Kingdom events. That's one small step in the direction of recognizing the neurodivergent community that needs a place to unwind, because you get peopled out. I get peopled out. And I realize that I get peopled out. I can go to the royal room, kick everybody out. You don't have that option. Okay, y'all didn't have that option, and that's why we wanted to go into the safe spaces. But what else can we do at our events? And one of the things I wanted to throw out was having, and I love that Elspeth has a DEIB officer at events, maybe adding a DEIB staff member to your event that's there to assist when somebody says, I need a place to decompress, or a safe person that they know that if something's happened that's made them feel uncomfortable at that event, they can go directly to that person and say, I need a moment to talk. This has happened. I don't know how to deal with it. Or I've been made so uncomfortable, I'm ready to leave. Because we can't fix problems like that if we don't know they're happening. And so many times it comes out after the event, not at the event.
I would like to jump in here for just a minute, and because you just mentioned it, and I did, hopefully with credit and praise, I did steal this idea from Elspeth. It was her original idea, but I ran with it with her consent, and that is to try to include what I have coined an accessibility consultant on our event staff, because we have, people in charge of different aspects of our event. We have someone that is in charge of gate. We have someone that's in charge of feast. We have someone, our site heralds, our list heralds. But I mean, one thing, and I think we're beginning to understand that the more and more panels and discussions we have, one area that we are lacking on is accessibility, and having someone either on site directly or definitely part of the event planning team, picking the site, etc. And I will go ahead and caveat this. If you are a small group, and since we are a volunteer organization, if you cannot find someone to volunteer for an accessibility consultant position on your event staff, you can reach out to me. Yes. You can reach out to the Windheim Principality DEIB officer. You can reach out to Elsbeth. You can reach out to the DEIB regional officer in your area, and they will step in and act as your event accessibility consultant if you cannot find another one.
And I am making myself an impact, because I think that people need to be able to see it visibly on me that I'm a DEIB.
100%.
Because they don't know Elspeth.
No. Right.
So I will be making myself an impact.
So, one thing I would like to say with with those benchmarks is that I would like to give praise to groups that are already doing this.
Yes.
A Barony of Wiesenführer and a Barony of Namron creating sanctuaries. When I was at Protectorate this year, they designated a populist support person to go around and to help people. Moonshadow Trade Days, we had somebody run a chariot service because the accessibility of that site was hard to go uphill for people. I asked you, please reach out in the missives I will send for next month on February. contact me when you're doing event bidding. Contact me if you're having meetings about events. That way I can give you that education, that training, and the accommodations that you're looking for in your sites.
Excellent.
Hey, hi, I'm Koya Karasova, the Kingdom social media officer. I'm going to tag on to that. If you are seeing people doing that and they consent to being posted social media wise, let either your local social media officer know or me, the Kingdom, so we can advertise that as well, because if we don't have that content to be able to push it out, no one's going to see it. So just try to keep an eye out for that when you're seeing it. Let us know so we can also share it out.
Excellent. See steps. Oh, you were here, Malcolm. Okay. Malcolm? Yep.
Yeah, I'm about to have to leave. I'm sorry. I have to go assist with another class, but I just wanted to point out that, you know, there are things that we need to do to make events more accessible and stuff like that. But you can do that, and you can do that to the best of your ability and knock that out of the park. But it doesn't matter if the people of color, if queer people are being harassed in the game. And I mean, I accepted a job. I accepted the Western Hemisphere Indigenous Cultures Deputy job, and it got posted on Facebook, and I instantly started being harassed. I instantly had somebody questioning, oh, well, I guess that's good and all, but why then? Why? Well, I just don't understand. Why are we being so woke? Why are we being so political? And had people get in there and be like, what are you talking about? This is somebody who has a degree in this. This is somebody who works in this, who works in historic preservation. Why are you getting so? And they were like, well, I don't know. I guess I'm happy for the Indigenous people, but I just don't know if they're safe around children. It was because I had my pronouns in the bio.
Oh my God.
That there was this much of the entire bio I'm of the opinion that it was racist to begin with, and that when they realized that that wasn't going to work in the group,
Then
that they started going that direction. But before I leave, I just wanted to challenge people. If you see people talking about this, if you hear people talking about being harassed and stuff, white folks, you've got to step in and you've got to believe it. And I mean, I've have a very nice instance of Viscountess Cat stepping in once when somebody made a racist joke around me. Did not know that I was there, and immediately stepped in and was like, yo, that is not cool. That is not a joke that we make. But yeah, I have to leave. I just wanted to
absolutely
challenge you guys.
I'd like for those posts to be sent to the Kingdom Seneschal, please.
Oh yeah. We got, I think Koya
It
has
was dealt with that day as well. So this was a while back, just for your reference. But I will send it forward again.
I would like those forwarded to the Kingdom Seneschal, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
go
I
ahead.
know we're coming toward the end of the hour. So one thing I wanted to mention and make sure was brought up here, I think it's a great idea to do these sort of salons and these listening sessions. I want to make sure that we understand that education for white people by white people is important, but it's not going to touch on the same things that you're going to be able to get to if you hold a session that is for your minority populations in the kingdom. And I know that a lot of people don't like to hear that because it's exclusive, but it is exclusive with a purpose of letting them speak and letting them be heard, because I know there are more non-white people at the event here than chose to attend the salon today. And that is a thing that gets put on the few minorities who attend, that they feel like they have to take on that work and that effort, and they're constantly tapped over and over and over to be a representative of their community in the way that the rest of us in here are not. I have never been asked to represent the queer community. There's always a bunch of folks in the room who are visibly more queer than I am. So that's not something that is asked of me. Bao is constantly asked to be a representative of the minority community, not just the Vietnamese community, not just the Asian community, but as a brown face in the SCA, is asked to speak for every other minority in the SCA and what his reaction is to a situation. So I think we need to recognize that those experiences are fundamentally different, and you're going to get a different response if you solicit feedback specifically from the people that it affects the most.
That's a great idea. Thank you so much for that. Hadassah?
First off, quick correction to what Torquil said. My grandfather was blind, so he used to say he wanted people to see people the way that he saw them. So that's just a quick correction there. One of the things, and I love the idea of having a DEI person specifically for events. I used to use a walker, and now occasionally I still do use a cane. And having somebody who can walk the sites, check out the ground, because not at an SCA event, but when we were showing dogs, I got injured right after a major surgery because they wouldn't let me walk the show ring, and I ended up stepping in a hole. So somebody that can even just do that is a major, major thing that would be fantastic. So
that was our whole topic on for the salon, the first salon, which was accessibility of sites, and so that is something that is coming forward. We're about to round out. Tegan, I'm gonna let you have the last comment, and then Koke, do you have something? Or Koya, I'm sorry,
No,
Koya.
no, I was just holding it.
Koya, sorry, my brother.
Thank you, Your Majesty, for the time. Baroness, one thing that I would like to caveat with what you just said, there is a big difference between sympathy and empathy. It's the hardest thing that we're going to have to address, because no matter how much I want to help, I'm going to have barriers limited on the way that I came into this world. That's not going to help someone else who's looking for the equity to have the exact same thing. You know, so, you know, that's where the drive is. Find people who are empathetic, who want to make the change. Find the people who are sympathetic to what they've seen happen, and have them rally together to try and make it work. And I'm glad you brought up that point.
Thank you. Okay, so just a couple of final words. First of all, thank you everybody for coming. I'm hoping to basically set a trend with the future crowns to continue to hold these salons, to listen to the populace, to get these ideas, to put them together and put them into action, because we can talk all day, but if we don't act on any of it, it's useless. So our idea is to act moving forward. Two quick things. If you are teaching in DEIB today, or if you are one of our DEIB ministers, I have little largesse. I love the ducks. You'll have to check out the ducks. You are welcome to take a duck. I also have some cute little dragons, just as a token of my thanks and appreciation for defending our populace. The other thing, I just want to remind everybody that we are working on getting our first DEIB award in Ansteorra established. I'm very excited about it. I've been getting great recommendations for our premier members. The Crown is always open to recommendations, so if you have some people that you would like to recommend, please send them up. We're going to be limiting the order to 3 per reign, because we want this to be something that is truly earned through service, not just through a single little one act off, one act there. We want to make sure that we're recognizing the people that are the voices of the communities who feel voiceless. So thank you all for coming, and please come see me for, what was it? What was it? Oh, third,
all the notes from the first one,
oh,
the notes
yes.
from this one, and then you're doing a virtual one that will present the first two.
Yes, thank you very much. So we are compiling. We are actually working on compiling all of the notes, and we're going to put them into a document that we can get out to everybody, so that y'all can see what the concerns were, as well as comments for solutions to the problems. And we are going to do a virtual salon. We just haven't kind of got a date just yet on what the overall output was from these. So, all right, thank you, Exodus, for reminding me of that. All right, thank you everyone for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.